in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. I was the most ineffectual Marchioness in the capital. The Marquis of Shiao, Julian, married me simply because I was gentle, obedient, and easy to manipulate. Before the wedding, he stated his terms with brutal clarity. As long as you treat Mistress Bella, the woman I love, with kindness after you enter my home, and do not compete with her, I will grant you the dignity that a lawful wife deserves. For the sake of my family, I swallowed my pride and agreed to the marriage. From that moment on, while Bella Lynn sat, I was made to stand. While Bella feasted on delicacies, I drank the leftover soup. When royal bestowals arrived from the palace, Bella was allowed to choose first, and I received whatever remained. I thought my years of patience had satisfied the Marquis, but when I finally wanted to leave, he stood trembling, blocking the door. You are my lawful wife. You are not going anywhere. Are you simply clearing the way for the man currently in your heart? My name is Eleanor Chen. My father was a scholar at the Royal Academy. From a young age, I bore the reputation of being intelligent, gentle, and virtuous. When I came of age, old Madame Shiao, the mother of the Marquis, sent a letter to my grandmother. The letter expressed a desire for me to become the successor wife to the Marquis. His first wife, Lydia, had passed away 2 years prior. By all laws of reason and emotion, it was time for him to take a new wife to oversee the household. Although he was 10 years my senior, for a man, capability and status were what mattered most. The Marquis of Shiao was a close confidant of the king, holding immense power and authority. The Shiao estate was renowned for its extravagant wealth. For the daughter of a minor official like myself, this was considered marrying far above my station. At the time, I felt as though a stroke of immense fortune had fallen from the heavens, leaving me dazed with joy. Even my mother whispered secretly to my father that on the day I was born, a rosy dawn had covered the sky, a sign of great blessings. My sister Sarah and my fourth sister were endlessly envious, teasing that I must not forget them once I became a Marchioness. I was terribly shy, but my heart was sweet with anticipation and dreams of the future. After the engagement was verbally settled, old Madame Shiao paid a special visit to our home. She appeared kind, spoke gently, and even gifted me a bracelet of exquisite pearls. I knew she had affection for me. I resolved that after marrying into the Shiao Manor, I would be devoted to her, serve the family with all my heart, bear children, and manage the domestic affairs flawlessly. For old Madame Shiao's birthday, the manor sent a special invitation, mentioning they had hired a famous opera troupe from the capital, and asked my grandmother, my sisters, and me to arrive early. I carefully prepared a hand-embroidered gift, working day and night without rest for 5 or 6 days, just to present it to her. However, when we arrived that day, I saw an ethereal beauty sitting beside the old madam. She wore brocade robes, her hair was pinned with jewels, and she looked like a fairy stepping out of a painting. Her gestures and speech were flawless. I asked around and was shocked to learn that she was merely a mistress of the Marquis. I understood that for a dashing, 30-year-old man like Julian, it was impossible to be without women. However, for a mistress to sit proudly beside the old madame and command the respect of the entire household was unheard of. I silently observed the servants bustling about. They waited for her orders on almost every matter. This did not look like a mistress. She clearly held more prestige than a Marchioness. As for my future husband, his eyes never left her for a single second. After sitting for a while at the birthday banquet, the expressions on my grandmother's, my sister's, and my faces all changed. We quietly went outside to inquire and learned that her name was Bella, and she had been in the manor for over 2 years. Julian adored her as if she were a precious gem. For her sake, he had dismissed all other women from the estate. If not for her low status, he would have likely elevated her to be his lawful wife. Unfortunately, Bella was a woman redeemed from a house of pleasure. Although she had never received guests, such a background made it difficult for her to enter through the main gates as a wife. It was said she was very manipulative. Initially, old Madame Shiao despised her, but eventually, she too was swayed. At that moment, I finally understood everything clearly. My late grandfather was only a third-rank official. The highest-ranking members of my family, my uncle Bernard and my father, were merely 4th rank. The Shiao family chose me simply because I was gentle, easy to command, and easy to suppress. They needed a lawful wife who could endure and accept a mistress who was cherished like a treasure. That was why they proposed to me. Realizing the ambition behind this marriage, my vision went dark, and I nearly collapsed. It is true what they say, pennies do not fall from heaven. If I married into that house, I would have neither the love of my husband nor the dignity a wife deserves. Even a statue has some pride. The Marquis dared to oppress people to this extent. This marriage was worse than my eldest sister marrying a poor scholar. At least she could hold her head high as the mistress of her own home. My entire family left the manor with grim expressions. My fourth sister, though young, ground her teeth in anger, saying the Shiao family was bullying us with their power. Indeed, old Madame Shiao was shrewd. She had staged today's scene purposely to force me to accept the situation. My heart turned to ash. I said, "Grandmother, I do not want to marry anymore." Grandmother looked at everyone, then stared at me for a long time before speaking warily. "Everyone leave. Eleanor, stay." Seeing grandmother keep me back, I immediately dropped to my knees. "Grandmother, I do not want to marry. The Shiao Manor is a living hell. Marriage is supposed to unite two families for good, but from start to finish, Julian has not glanced at me once. His heart is entirely placed on that mistress. He is marrying me only to set up a figurehead, a puppet. If I endure such a thing, am I not lowering myself to a pitiable state? Acting as he does, what decent family would marry their daughter to him?" Grandmother laughed coldly. "Eleanor, let me tell you the truth. If not for that woman, given Julian's power, looks and talent, he could marry anyone he wanted. He could even marry a royal princess. He chose you precisely because of that woman." My tears fell like rain. I crawled to grandmother's side and grasped her hand tightly. "I do not want to marry into a noble house anymore. I would rather be like my eldest sister and marry a poor scholar than live such a life." After grandfather passed, the Chen family was only considered a second-tier family in the capital. Although we cannot compare to the extravagance of the Shiao estate, I have seen grandfather take mistresses, and Uncle Bernard take mistresses. I understand the struggles for favor in the inner courtyard very well. Julian deliberately chose the day of my visit to display such a scene simply to make me understand that if I want to marry him, I must yield to and respect the woman he loves. If I agree, I must endure humiliation for a lifetime. If I am unwilling and conflict arises with her, he will never stand on my side. The Shiao Manor is not a small household. It is vast with many affairs requiring a mistress. If I marry in, will the servants listen to me or that woman? If the house is not at peace, disaster will follow. Grandmother sighed. "Eleanor, my girl, it is not that I do not pity your suffering, but this marriage must happen." She spoke dejectedly. "Your Uncle Bernard committed a serious error in office. It was the Marquis who used his influence to save him and keep his position. Currently, only Uncle Bernard holds a high position in our family. If he falls, what will become of you and your sisters? You are the gentlest and most sensible child in the family. Consider this a sacrifice for the clan." Grandmother pulled me into her arms, silent for a moment before softening her voice. "I observed carefully today. That mistress has no magical powers, she is merely young and beautiful, a passing fancy. You are intelligent, gentle, and your beauty is second to none. The Marquis will eventually have a place for you. I have lived a long life and know that few men are truly devoted lovers. That kind of affection varies only in length. As long as you maintain your composure, do not conflict with that woman, and perform your duties as the main wife well, your life will not be unbearable." I knelt there, numb and unable to speak. It turned out I had no way to retreat. Back in my room, I cried miserably. My mother, heartbroken, said, "I will go beg your grandmother to change her mind." My father paced anxiously around the room, sighing. "It is useless. It is all because your Uncle Bernard has burdened you." Yes, it was useless. In grandmother's heart, Uncle Bernard's official position was more important than I was. And she was not wrong. If Uncle lost his position, my father was merely a scholar at the Royal Academy, reading books all day with no real power. My other uncles had no achievements either. The Chen family would gradually decline. In a few years, my other sisters would struggle to find decent marriages, and their futures would be precarious. Furthermore, we had already agreed to the marriage with the Marquis. To break the engagement now might offend him. I remained silent all night. The next morning, I told my grandmother, "I want to meet the Marquis once." Grandmother nodded. "Very well." 3 days later, grandmother arranged for me to offer prayers at a temple. Julian waited for in a pavilion behind the temple grounds. Upon meeting him, I curtsied according to proper etiquette. Julian stood with his hands clasped behind his back and spoke aloofly. "I hear you have something to say." I took a deep breath and replied, "Since our families are discussing marriage, there are a few words I wish to clarify with your lordship beforehand." Julian nodded. "Reasonable." I said, I understand the reason your lordship wishes to marry me. It is because you want me to treat Mistress Bella well. Julian gave a cold, slight smile. Correct. He truly did not hide it. Clearly, he did not hold me in any regard. I clenched my hands, inhaled deeply, and said, Your lordship is open and upright, and you have shown kindness to the Chen family. I, Eleanor, am willing to marry you. I paused for a moment before continuing. However, a clan always needs someone to oversee the grand scheme. I hear that old Madame Shiao is advanced in years and cannot handle all the affairs of the manor herself. Domestic matters and social engagements require a lawful wife to manage. Mistress Bella is beloved by both your lordship and the old madame. If I marry in, how should I conduct myself? If rumors of favoring a mistress over a wife spread to the censors or the king, causing instability in the court, it would not be beneficial. Julian curled the corner of his lips, speaking arrogantly. Does this Marquis fear they will impeach me? I replied seriously. Domestic instability is a great taboo. I can guarantee that after I enter your doors, I will not mistreat Mistress Bella. However, I also hope your lordship will draw a clear boundary between us to avoid future conflicts. I do not wish to live in a state of hidden struggles. She plots against me, and I retaliate against her. I believe your lordship does not wish to return home after a hard day's work only to face senseless fighting between wife and mistress. Hearing my words, the Marquis finally looked at me seriously. He raised an eyebrow. The old madame said you were gentle and sensible. I see you are quite sharp. Are you perhaps pretending to be foolish when you are actually wise? I shook my head slightly. If I were truly clever, your lordship would not have chosen me. I only hope both sides can clarify matters beforehand to avoid awkwardness later. This is the utmost limit I can fight for myself. Julian nodded. Agreed. From now on, the management of the Shiao Manor is handed over to you. Social relations with relatives are also your responsibility. However, Bella's courtyard and my private study are not for you to interfere with. The study is the most important place in the manor. Indeed, he did not trust me, but this was already a good outcome. I withdrew my gaze and spoke sincerely. Thank you, my lord. Before leaving, I reminded him softly, your lordship is a man who does great things. You surely know that in a large household, the greatest taboo is a divided heart. If it leaves a legacy of trouble for future generations, I fear it, Julian replied coldly. I do not need you to lecture me. I would not dare. I took a step back, yielding the path. Just like that, 2 months later, I married into the Shiao Manor and became the lawful wife of Julian Shiao. Grandmother, pitying me, prepared an incredibly generous dowry. My parents, fearing I would be looked down upon by the Shiao family, also drained their assets. I advised my mother to keep some back, as we did not yet know the rules of the Shiao household, and my younger brother was still small. She should save some silver for his education and future marriage. My brother, Henry, was only 10 years old. He would need money for many things in the future. My mother cried until her face was soaked with tears. My good child, our family has failed you. My siblings were reluctant to part, but I decisively let go of my family, leaving the Chen residence with tear-blurred eyes. From now on, whatever happens, I will bear it alone. Fortunately, on the wedding night, Julian still came to the main chamber. He shared a ceremonial toast with me and fulfilled his duty as a husband. Although he was not gentle and acted with perfunctory reluctance, at least he gave me some dignity in front of others. The next morning, he immediately went to rest at Mistress Bella's courtyard. Molly was furious on my behalf, speaking indignantly. How can the main chamber be empty on the second day of the marriage? This Mistress Bella truly knows no limits. I only sighed softly. This cannot be blamed on Mistress Bella. Where the Marquis wishes to go is his business. You should also see the situation clearly regarding the Marquis and Mistress Bella. We are outsiders. I continued to follow my grandmother's advice, do not fight, do not compete, just perform the duties of a main wife well. Because if I held high expectations for Julian or the manor, the only one who would get hurt would be me. So, I began to calm my mind, organize my belongings, arrange my dowry, and gradually take over the work of the Shiao Manor. Every day, I went to call upon old Madame Shiao and inquire about her health, fulfilling my duty as a daughter-in-law. The old madam was quite gentle with me, though her words carried a hint of admonition. You are the lawful wife, no one can surpass you, but absolutely do not tie yourself in knots. I replied softly, this daughter-in-law understands. Thank you, mother, for your guidance. Old Madame Shiao nodded in satisfaction. I know you are a smart person. After I entered the household, Mistress Bella came to pay respects only once. Afterward, she used the excuse of weak health to avoid meeting me and never came again. Perhaps she did not want to see me either. Fortunately, I had no desire to see her, so I sent a servant to convey a message. Mistress Bella should rest well. There is no need to force herself to come here. Molly was so angry she was speechless. Is there any place in the capital with a mistress like this? She has no manners at all. We must show her some color. I shook my head. Do not mind her. Treat her as if she does not exist. If I dared to treat Bella poorly, I fear Julian would be the first to stand up and defend her. Why should I invite such unpleasantness? After being married for a while, I gradually grasped the management situation in the manor. The Shiao family had many old servants who were cunning and sly. Seeing that I never made things difficult for Mistress Bella, they assumed I was weak and easy to bully, so they openly played tricks right before my eyes. I did not get angry, nor did I shout. I simply quietly recorded every mistake, then went to ask old Madame Xiao for instructions. The old madame was astute in managing the household and understood that if she was lax at the beginning, I would have no authority later. Therefore, she immediately punished those people severely. The servants in the manor were furious but dared not speak out. They only cursed me behind my back as a silent dog that bites. I pretended not to hear. After all, house rules dictate rewards for merit and punishment for errors. Only then could the atmosphere in the manor be rectified. After taking over the household affairs, I discovered that Mistress Bella did not care at all about who managed the house. Julian, fearing she would be mistreated, had bought her quite a bit of farmland and shops outside. Her assets were several times larger than my dowry. Just collecting the monthly rent made her hands soft. It was no wonder people rumored that when Mistress Bella rewarded servants, she used gold coins. Thus, everyone in the manor fought to curry favor with her. Furthermore, the entire manor used common oil for lamps, but Bella's courtyard alone used precious whale oil. Whale oil production was extremely limited, and most of it was offered to the royal palace. The extravagance of the Shiao Manor was visible at a glance. Therefore, even if I had the thought of suppressing Mistress Bella, she would not be afraid. Why should I turn myself into a villain? So, for every monthly expense allocated to Mistress Bella, I prepared the very best. Whether she wanted to use it for herself or reward her servants was entirely up to her. Julian almost exclusively stayed in his study or Bella's courtyard. He only visited the main chamber on the 1st and 15th of every month, considering it a way to deal with me. I always maintained politeness toward him, welcoming him with a smile. If he came, I did not complain. If he did not come, I was not heartbroken. Every day, I focused solely on handling my own affairs. Whether it was interesting small trinkets or brocades bestowed by the king, Bella was allowed to choose first. I took whatever remained without a word. Seeing that I was so peaceful and poised, Julian had no excuse to find fault. Just like that, a year passed, and indeed, the waves were calm. In my leisure time I read books, painted, embroidered, arranged flowers, and occasionally played cards with the maids for entertainment. Those days, upon reflection, were actually gentle. Before I married, many of Julian's friends did not think highly of me. Most thought that his excessive doting on Mistress Bella was the root cause of domestic chaos, and that any woman would eventually be unwilling to accept it. They did not expect me to endure to such an extent. His closest friend, Lord Simon, a scholar at the Royal Academy, expressed admiration. He often joked at banquets. "Brother Julian, what is your secret for keeping the household so peaceful? Wife and mistress in harmony? Hurry and teach us." I only went out to Keros with women once, and my wife nearly scratched my face off. Each time, Julian merely smiled without answering, his eyes full of smug satisfaction. Old Madame Xiao also frequently praised me outside, saying I was virtuous and generous. My good reputation spread from there. My sisters in the Chen family were also married into decent households one after another. Uncle Bernard survived that crisis and subsequently acted with great caution, stabilizing his position in the officialdom. Seeing the Chen family prosper day by day, I felt that my sacrifice was worth it. The 9th day of July the following year was the birthday of Julian's aunt. His aunt had married into a ducal estate. The organization of this birthday banquet was entrusted to her eldest daughter-in-law, Lady Harper, who happened to be very close to Mistress Bella. I heard that initially, Lady Harper also looked down on Bella's background. However, when her maiden family encountered trouble, it was Bella who begged Julian to intervene, and the matter was resolved. Since then, Lady Harper has been incredibly grateful. Julian was a man of moderation in both his conduct and his official duties, yet whenever it was a request from Bella, there was nothing he would not agree to. Because of the Marquis's power, everyone was polite and friendly toward his mistress. I understood this clearly. This was Julian's doing. If he wanted to elevate someone, that person would absolutely not be slighted. Therefore, when we arrived at the Duke's estate, Lady Harper greeted me with a single perfunctory sentence before immediately turning around to take Bella's hand, laughing warmly. "My dear Bella, you become more beautiful with each passing day. You leave even a woman like me mesmerized." Bella covered her mouth and laughed. "Sister, your words are surely dipped in honey. Oh my, is this dress made of fine imported silk?" They chatted idly, completely ignoring the fact that I was still standing right there. Seeing this, the other noblewomen also flocked around Bella. Some praised her jewelry, while others complimented her attire. Molly saw that I was being given the cold shoulder and was so angry that her face flushed with indignation. I shook my head slightly at her, then found a secluded corner to sit down by myself. It was just sitting on a cold bench. I had gradually gotten used to it over the past year. Unexpectedly, after sitting for only a moment, I heard two young wives whispering in the adjacent room. "That is the new Marchioness of Shiao, Eleanor, isn't it? She doesn't look too bad. What use is being pretty? Didn't you see? Standing next to Mistress Bella, she couldn't even hold her ground. She is truly useless. If it were me, I would risk my life to make a scene. I would make the whole family lose face. Making a scene is useless. Everyone knows the Marquis only has Mistress Bella in his heart. Years ago, old Madame Shiao wanted to marry my younger sister into the manor. My parents refused immediately upon hearing it. Rightly so. Who would have the heart to let their daughter jump into the fire? I fear that Lady Chen is also a pitiable person." Listening to this, my heart felt bitter, yet I could not refute a word. Circumstances are stronger than people. I had already fought for everything I did to secure a breathing space for myself. Regarding other matters, I had to pretend not to hear or see. However, hearing it from outsiders still felt like a knife slicing through my heart. Thinking this, I sighed softly and intended to change seats to avoid awkwardness if they noticed me. Unexpectedly, as I turned around, I saw Julian supporting his mother standing right behind me. Both of their faces looked unpleasant. I lowered my eyes, changed my expression, and smiled softly at the old madame. "Mother, have you finished chatting with Aunt? Let me help you with the banquet." Old Madame Xiao closed her eyes for a moment, then nodded. "Good child, let us go." Before leaving, she quietly cast a deep, piercing glance at Julian. He said nothing, but he clearly looked a bit unnatural. After returning to the manor, the old madam specifically sent someone to bring me a set of pure gold ornaments. Perhaps to compensate for my loss of face, I heard that the old lady even personally scolded Julian in the main courtyard. "You married Eleanor of your own free will. Even if you do not like her, she is your lawful wife. You cannot be so excessively biased." Yet Julian replied, "In my heart, only Bella is my true wife." Old Madame Xiao said furiously, "I never stopped you from liking Bella. The wedding banquet was held, and I gave her enough face in the entire capital, which Mistress lives more comfortably than she does. But if you go to this extent, what will outsiders think? Are their hearts not made of flesh?" Julian did not answer for a long time. These words reached my ears. Surely, the old madame intended for me to know. I maintained my respectful demeanor as before, not mentioning a word of it. After that incident, Julian's attitude toward me softened somewhat, and he was willing to give me some dignity in front of friends and relatives. On one occasion, the Crown Prince hosted a banquet and invited many young talents and scholars of the capital. For such an occasion, bringing a mistress like Bella would not have been in accordance with the rules. Therefore, Julian took me along. That day, the Crown Prince was in high spirits and composed poetry, inviting everyone to respond on the spot. Whoever was chosen as the best would be rewarded with a radiant pearl that had just been offered as tribute from the southern seas. The pearl was incredibly precious, but what everyone truly wanted was the opportunity to display their talent before the Crown Prince. Everyone exerted their utmost effort to win. In the end, Julian won the prize with an impeccable sonnet. That night, he was in a very good mood and gave the pearl to me. "This is a reward from the Crown Prince. Keep it safe." I felt uneasy in my heart, but I could only accept it. Unexpectedly, just after we returned, Bella fell ill that very night. For several days, her condition did not improve. Finally, Julian returned to find me, his face red with embarrassment, and asked for the pearl. I immediately ordered someone to retrieve it and gave it to him. "Here, your lordship, take it. It is just an object. Why let it cause Mistress Bella distress?" Julian looked ashamed. Bella's constitution is weak. This pearl can help calm the nerves. I will take it for her to use temporarily, and then I will return it to you. Before he could finish, I calmly cut him off. No need. The pearl did not belong to me in the first place. Keeping it only invites trouble. More than a month passed. My maiden family suddenly sent a letter saying that my second sister, Sarah, was in trouble. Half a year after I married, Sarah also married. Her luck was not bad. She married the youngest son of General Linwood. Her husband was honest, ambitious, and loved Sarah dearly. The only problem was Sarah's mother-in-law, Madame Linwood, who had a difficult and unbearable temperament. She frequently scolded Sarah and imposed all sorts of rules. Recently, Sarah had become pregnant, but for some unknown reason, she was made to stand as punishment for an entire day. As a result, she began to bleed that night. Uncle Bernard's wife immediately dragged my mother to the Linwood estate to argue for justice. Because I was the Marchioness of Shiao and had some status among the noblewomen, I was also called along to represent our family and demand fairness for my sister. When we arrived at the Linwood residence, we saw Sarah. Her face was pale and haggard, looking as though she had suffered greatly. However, before we could even open our mouths, Sarah's mother-in-law raised her voice first, listing Sarah's faults, accusing her of disrespecting her mother-in-law and having a bad temper, claiming the miscarriage was her own doing. Aunt Bernard scolded angrily. "There is no mother-in-law in the world like you. It was hard enough to conceive a grandson, yet you mistreated your daughter-in-law until the child was lost. My daughter is so gentle and obedient. You are truly greedy. Do you think the Chen family has no one left? Do you think you can bully my daughter like this?" Madame Linwood stood with her hands on her hips. "There are no parents in this world who are wrong. What is so precious about a daughter of the Chen family that she dares to disobey her mother-in-law?" I interjected. "You cannot say that. A harmonious family prospers in everything. No matter what, my sister was carrying the flesh and blood of the Linwood family." Madame Linwood glanced sideways at me and sneered. "Oh, I wondered who it was. It is the Marchioness of Shiao. Everyone knows the Marquis favors his mistress and destroys his wife. He has never regarded you as anything important. You cannot even manage a concubine. If I were you, I would not come out and lose face like this." My mother was furious. "I will tear your foul mouth apart." For a moment, chaos reigned. It was a noisy afternoon, and neither side would yield. Finally, Aunt Bernard had to take Sarah back to the Chen family home. Before we left, Sarah's mother-in-law deliberately spoke vicious words. "I will absolutely not let my son go to pick up your daughter. If you have the backbone, then don't ever come back for the rest of your life." Back at home, grandmother blamed Aunt Bernard for being hot-headed. "If they really don't come to pick her up, will Sarah not return there?" Aunt Bernard cried continuously. "She is flesh and blood that fell from my belly. How can I bear to let my child go back and suffer?" That mother-in-law wouldn't even let her rest properly during her confinement. She wanted a bowl of broth and was refused. Hearing this, grandmother could not hold back her tears. In these times, whether the husband is good or not is secondary. The most important thing is the mother-in-law. No one expected Sarah's mother-in-law to be so rude and unreasonable, no different from a declining commoner family. After a busy half-day, I had not been able to help much. I only gave some high-quality restorative tonics to Aunt Bernard to nourish Sarah. Aunt Bernard wiped her tears and held my hand. "Good child, thank you. You do not have it easy either." Returning to the Shiao Manor, my heart was anxious and unsettled. I sat silently on the daybed for a long time, unable to calm my spirit. The status of women in this world is truly difficult. Like me, I only failed to win my husband's heart, but fortunately, old Madame Shiao had never mistreated me. I just needed to grit my teeth and endure, and the days would pass. But outside, I had no good reputation. I was merely seen as a useless marchioness. What about Sarah? Her husband is filial but dares not disobey his mother. Will they just be separated like this? I tossed and turned in my thoughts. Before I knew it, the afternoon had passed. It was only when a maid came in to announce the Marquis's arrival that I was startled and remembered today was the 15th. His scheduled day of visit. I hurriedly ordered dinner to be served. Julian asked, "What are you thinking about? I called you several times before you heard." I replied, "It is nothing. I was just thinking about my sister's affairs back at my maiden home." Afraid of dragging the conversation out, I briefly recounted the events of the day. Julian said, "Why didn't you come to me about such a matter?" I paused. Julian smiled faintly. The wife of General Linwood and the general knew each other from humble beginnings. I hear she came from a butcher's family and has a harsh, shrewish temperament. She acts this way because she overly favors her eldest son, so she projects her dislike onto the second daughter-in-law. So that is why, indeed, every family has its own suffering. Julian spoke slowly. The eldest son of the Linwood family currently works under my command. His mother dares to bully my wife's sister. Isn't that looking down on me? Wait until I go back and show him some color. He will naturally understand what needs to be done. Hearing the words, my wife, my heart stirred slightly, feeling a bit unnatural. My lord, there is no need to trouble yourself over this. I know very well that I am only a Marchioness in name. I am not Mistress Bella. I do not have the capability to open my mouth and ask you to act. Julian's expression changed slightly, and he lowered his voice. You are truly courteous with me. He coughed lightly, covered his lips with his hand, and said again, rest assured. You are, after all, the Marchioness of Shiao. The Linwood family disrespecting you is no different from disrespecting me. You married me, I will not let you suffer grievances. But isn't the person who makes me suffer the most you? My lips moved, but in the end, I said nothing. 2 days later, my family sent news that Madame Linwood had suddenly changed her attitude. She came to the Chen estate with a great ceremony to welcome Sarah back and promised to treat her youngest daughter-in-law kindly from now on. She only hoped I could put in a good word with the Marquis to help the eldest Linwood son. Had Julian really intervened? An indescribable surprise rose in my heart. Truly, a high official can crush people to death. Seeing Sarah's matter settled, my heart felt much lighter. I originally intended to thank Julian by sewing or cooking something for him, but thinking back, his clothes and shoes were all handled by Mistress Bella alone. He had never needed me to intervene. After weighing it, I felt I shouldn't invite trouble, so I only made an embroidered forehead band and knee pads for old Madame Shiao. To show my sincerity, I specifically used precious stones brought from my dowry to trim the band. Old Madame Shiao saw my sincerity at a glance and liked it very much. She held my hand and said, only in strong winds do we know the sturdy grass, only in chaotic times do we see the loyal heart. Before, I worried you were only gentle on the surface. I did not expect you to be truly virtuous and clear-sighted. Rest assured, the Marquis will not mistreat you in the future. I replied, thank you, mother, for your praise. I have always been a simple person. I do whatever my elders tell me to do. I know my elders will not harm me. Old Madame Shiao looked at me quietly for a moment, then sighed softly. Julian will eventually realize your worth. My heart trembled slightly, but I did not need him to realize it. After that incident, I do not know what the old madam said to Julian, but he came to my courtyard much more frequently. From twice a month, it gradually increased to 3, then 5 times. 2 months later I discovered I was pregnant. On the day the doctor diagnosed my pregnancy, Bella fainted. Molly whispered. The moment my lady confirmed the news, she made a big show of inviting a doctor to check her health. It really is bad luck. For years, Julian had no children. His first wife, Lydia, had a weak constitution and never conceived. Bella came from a house of pleasure and was said to have been forced to take contraceptive tonics, so it was difficult for her to conceive as well. This time, upon my pregnancy, old Madame Shiao was so happy her face beamed. She rewarded me with plenty of precious supplements and nutritious soups and sent an experienced old nanny to attend to my diet and daily life. Julian also began to take it seriously, visiting my courtyard several times. For Bella, this must have been incredibly unpleasant, but for me, having a child was a joyous occasion. Whether it was a boy or a girl, the Shiao Manor and I would be more tightly bound from now on. I could also stand firm in the manor. A woman's life relies on her husband for the first half, and on her children for the second half. That day, after checking my pulse, the doctor said, my lady's body is very stable, the fetal signs are strong. You just need to rest and nourish the pregnancy peacefully. My mood was excellent. At lunch, I ate a large ell of dumplings and an extra portion of roast pheasant. Since I became pregnant, not only was Molly beaming, but even the servants in the courtyard walked with lighter steps, full of excitement. But that evening, Julian unexpectedly came to visit. He asked about my morning sickness, and knowing I was well, he hesitantly opened his mouth. I hear your father's superior intends to promote someone. Your father has always worked carefully. If someone were to give a push, I fear he could advance a step further. His tone was strange. I could only reply, your lordship need not worry. My father's talent is only average. If he is not worthy of the position, it would not be good. Although my father has good scholarship, when it comes to the strategies of officialdom, He is still far behind others. Julian raised an eyebrow. Woman. Doesn't every woman hope her maiden family is strong so she can live easily in her husband's home? I sighed. No matter how much of a future my father had, he could never compare to the Marquis of Shiao. Otherwise, I would have already divorced and found a true husband, rather than living these days of humiliation and caution. Of course, I dared not say these words aloud. I only said, "It is truly not necessary." Julian looked at me for a long time, hesitating for a while before speaking. "You are pregnant, Bella." Her mood is very bad. I did not know how to respond, so I simply remained obediently silent. Julian sighed. Bella has been with me for many years, yet she has never borne a child. I told her to nurse her health slowly, and it would happen eventually. My mother has a relative who knows a very skilled physician. Later, I can introduce him to examine Mistress Bella. These were just polite words. Bella's body was so weak, how would I dare to randomly introduce a doctor? Julian stared into my eyes and gritted his teeth. I can have your father and your Uncle Bernard both promoted by one rank. If you give birth later, can we let Bella raise the first child? Julian's words were like a basin of icy water splashed straight over my head. The joy from a moment ago vanished into smoke. My heart felt as if someone was squeezing it tightly. It hurt so much I could barely breathe. It turns out that being gentle only invites bullying. I retreated a step, and then another step. I endured again and again, but in the end, it only resulted in being trampled upon without mercy. My eyes burned, and my hands trembled uncontrollably. People were right, it would be hard to find a Marchioness in the entire capital, as thick-skinned and useless as me. I could not even protect the child in my own womb. 2 years of following the rules, keeping my place, being cautious and thorough. What was the point of it all? Immediately after, a sweet and metallic taste rose in my throat. My chest tightened, and a mouthful of blood gushed out, filling my mouth with the scent of iron. Seeing me vomit blood, Julian's face instantly changed. Eleanor, what is wrong? Someone, hurry, call the doctor. Molly was scared out of her wits, crying while rubbing my chest to help me breathe. My lady, don't be like this. Please breathe, don't scare this servant. The doctor ran in panic, hurriedly checking my pulse and asking about my condition. The incident happened so suddenly that even old Madame Xiao was alarmed. What exactly is going on? Everything was fine, why is she vomiting blood? The doctor said, the Marquis is pregnant and needs to nourish her body carefully. She absolutely must not be overly happy or overly angry. The ancient medical texts say extreme anger causes a severe agitation of the blood and nerves. In severe cases, it causes vomiting blood or digestive disorder. This means repressed anger damages the heart. After prescribing medicine, the doctor excused himself. Molly was still uneasy and followed him out to ask for more details on what to watch for. Old Madame Xiao looked at me, my face sallow, my breath shallow, my eyes red-rimmed, and asked, choking back tears, what on earth happened? Seeing I remained silent, old Madame Xiao turned to look at Julian. Julian was also frightened. In his mind, I had agreed to marry him for the rise and fall of my maiden family, for Uncle Bernard's official career. He surely thought I was the type of person who craved power and wealth. He thought he had offered sufficient conditions for an exchange. He never expected that I would be angered to the point of vomiting blood. Understanding the whole story, old Madame Xiao looked at Julian with disappointment. Julian, you have been intelligent since childhood. You never neglected your studies or martial arts. Growing up, you became an official and shouldered the family business, supporting the household. It was indeed very hard work. That is why I indulged you, letting Bella do whatever she wanted in the manor. But today, how could you utter such words? Have you been blinded by folly? If this matter spreads, will the Shiao Manor have any face left? How will I face the Chen family in the future? Old Madame Xiao was so angry that she became dizzy. A maid hurriedly supported her as she sat down, and she sighed in utter despair. If I had known this, I would not have found a wife for you. It would have been better to let you remain wifeless and childless. Truly, this is a sin. Julian's face turned pale. After a long while, he lowered his voice and spoke. I was merely asking, I did not say I would definitely take the child away. I only thought that Eleanor could still bear children in the future, while the first one could be given to Bella so she would have someone to rely on in her old age. This was nothing more than a transaction. If she does not agree, I am not forcing her. Old Madame Xiao looked as if her heart had turned to ash. She shook her head in self-mockery. I always believed that as long as Eleanor continued to be sensible, sooner or later, you would place your true heart upon her. But now it seems that was merely my wishful thinking. She did not even look at Julian anymore. She turned to me and said, "Good child, do not overthink this. I am still here. The Shiao Manor has not yet reached the point where they can do whatever they please. My emotions were too agitated just now. I have not yet fully recovered." After such a commotion, my mind finally began to clear. I opened my mouth and a tear fell. "This daughter-in-law has a few words to say." The old madam nodded repeatedly. "Good child, speak. I will grant you anything." I sat up, looked straight at Julian and spoke slowly. "I want to know why Mistress Bella wants my child." Julian's expression turned slightly unsightly. He replied, "If you do not agree, then let it be. We have already made such a scene, why do you still pursue this? It will only make me look worse." The corner of my lips quirked up in a cold smile. "My lord, since the day I married into this manor, I have never mistreated Mistress Bella. The monthly allowances for her courtyard are always of the best quality. I have never pressured the servants under her command. Even the bestowals from the palace are chosen by her first before the remainder comes to me. Even the radiant pearl that the crown prince rewarded me with, when she wanted it, I did not keep it for a moment but gave it to her intact. I ask you, how many women could calmly endure all of these things? I have done this much, is it not enough to fulfill my original promise to your lordship?" Julian was choked with words. He was silent for a moment before saying, "You have done very well." I took a deep breath. Mistress Bella has countless assets, she has never lacked gold. If she truly wanted a child, she could spend money to bring in a few beautiful women, have them bear children, and then raise them herself. Would that not be safer and more appropriate? Julian did not speak. Old Madame Xiao's expression shifted slightly. I sighed. "I do not know what Mistress Bella said to your lordship. Did she weep and beg, or did she play the victim? But in reality, she does not truly want to raise a child. She is simply too clever. A woman may be weak, but a mother is strong. Mistress Bella understands clearly that I would rather die than hand my child over to her. Therefore, she struck first to force me to retaliate in order to protect my child." Julian froze. I continued, "For a man, the greatest hatred is the murder of his father, or the stealing of his wife. But for a woman, if her own child falls into the hands of another, it is a pain that tears at her very bones." Julian's lips moved, but no sound came out. I closed my eyes and exhaled softly. "Since I became pregnant, the old madam has been especially concerned, and your lordship has visited more often. Mistress Bella sees all of this clearly, how could she not be anxious? Although she is favored, that glory exceeds her status, it is like adding oil to a fire. How could she peaceably watch me give birth to a legitimate son or daughter?" I looked straight at Julian and the old madam, enunciating every word clearly. "This is the first time Mistress Bella has officially moved against me. Only she borrowed your lordship's hand to do it. It was not a hidden conspiracy but an open scheme. Mistress Bella's plan is truly vicious. I was indeed provoked by her to the point of nearly losing control, almost doing something irretrievable. Fortunately, I remained rational and did not let her succeed." Julian and old Madame Xiao were both intelligent people. In an instant, they understood the crux of the matter. The old madam said in shock, "I said it long ago. A woman from that kind of place never has an upright mind. It is a pity you were blinded by obsession." Julian grit his teeth. "You are overthinking it. Bella has a pure heart, she absolutely does not have such intentions. The favored one is always innocent, indeed." I sighed softly. "Your lordship may not believe it, but you have lived with Mistress Bella for many years, surely you understand her better than I do. Therefore, if things had gone according to Mistress Bella's calculation, once I truly retaliated, your lordship would certainly have detested me. At best, I would be given the cold shoulder. At worst, I would be stripped of my management rights and confined to a desolate courtyard for the rest of my life. At that time, because it would be my fault, the Chen family would not be able to speak up for me. Mistress Bella would not only eliminate a threat, but could also legitimately raise your lordship's flesh and blood. 1 arrow, 3 targets. With me as the nominal lawful wife to blind the world, the manor would not need to marry another wife. From then on, Mistress Bella could truly be at ease." After I finished speaking, both old Madame Xiao and Julian looked shaken. I gave them some time to think it through. Old Madame Xiao took a deep breath and shouted angrily, "I told you. Excessively indulging a mistress is the root of disaster in a home. Julian, if you continue to be this lax, do not blame your mother for turning ruthless." Julian revealed a look of torn agony. I understood. In his heart, Bella was always pitiful and lovable. No matter what she did, She could be forgiven. If Bella wanted to hit me, I should offer my face for her to strike. It was a pity that this time I did not want to yield anymore. Julian spoke in a low voice. This is all just your speculation, it is too arbitrary. Bella would never think that far. Old Madame Xiao was furious to the extreme. Even at this point, you are still biased toward her. Where have your mind and your strategic ability gone? As she finished speaking, she pressed her hand to her forehead, her body swaying as if she had lost her balance. Mother! Mother! Old Madame! Seeing the old madame faint, everyone in the room panicked. Julian hurriedly held her and ran frantically back to the main courtyard, shouting, "Call the physician! Hurry!" I was also startled. If something happened to old Madame Xiao, I would truly have no one left to rely on. Fortunately, the physician had not gone far and was called back by the servants. After checking her pulse, he confirmed it was nothing critical. She was just elderly and had been overly agitated. With rest and some medicine, she would recover. The entire day had been earth-shattering chaos, with people rushing in and out, exhausted and disorderly. It was not until dusk fell that Julian dragged his tired steps back to my courtyard. He looked utterly drained. He comforted me indifferently. Mother is fine. Do not worry. You are pregnant now, let this matter end here. I will persuade Bella, and I will also care for you and the child. I looked at him quietly and spoke seriously. Your lordship need not worry. I do not intend to make things difficult for you. Now I have 2 ways to avoid conflict. Do you wish to hear them? Julian looked up at me. Speak. I spoke slowly. First, your lordship sends Mistress Bella out of the manor to settle her separately outside. Give her a private residence and care for her there. Only when she leaves the Shiao Manor can I guarantee the safety of myself and my child. Otherwise, no matter how much I guard against her, I cannot prevent everything. Julian clenched his hands, his voice cold. Just based on a few speculations you want to drive Bella away. That is too excessive. I paused for a moment, then spoke every word clearly. If your lordship does not choose the first way, then choose the second. I am willing to give birth to this child and hand it over to Mistress Bella to raise. But after the birth, I will divorce you and leave the Shiao Manor. As the words fell, Julian was completely stunned. After a long while, anger revealed itself in his eyes. Are you retreating in order to advance? I shook my head slightly. My lord, I have no path of retreat left. All this time, Mistress Bella and I could coexist because I always stepped back. But once I have a child, this balance will be broken. Whether it is a boy or a girl, obedient or mischievous, as long as the child occupies a small space in your heart, Mistress Bella will not be resigned. And she is not wrong, because your lordship lifted her so high with your own hands, she does not want to come down, and even if she wanted to, she cannot come down anymore. She was too ostentatious before. Once she falls out of favor, it would be falling from heaven straight into the mud. No one could bear that crash. Julian took a deep breath. Do not threaten me with such heavy words. Although his mouth refuted me, his voice was incredibly weak. I have said too much today, I am already tired. But there are some words that must be made clear while we have the chance today. I rubbed my brow and spoke slowly. My lord, before we married, I told you that in a large family, the greatest taboo is a divided heart. It is a disaster for future generations. I spread my hands and continued softly. We have been married for 2 years. Your lordship should have some understanding of what kind of person I am. I, Eleanor, am not without means. I simply do not wish to use those insidious and dark tricks. But if one day I am forced into a corner, the knife hidden in my sleeve will reveal its edge. Hearing this, Julian's brow twitched slightly. He laughed coldly. You are threatening me. I shook my head gently. If your lordship continues to hesitate and drag this out, the end result for Mistress Bella and me will sooner or later be a fight to the death, where both sides suffer. I do not want to reach that point. My father taught me to read from a young age, taught me that there are things one should do and things one should not do. He taught me that a person's ambitions should be vast. Why must I waste my entire life stuck in the mire of the inner courtyard fighting for favor? I did not move against Bella not because I couldn't, but because I still hold a shred of conscience in my heart. If your lordship does not decide soon, you will certainly regret it in the future. As I finished, the blood drained from Julian's face. He knew I was forcing him to make a choice. Julian understood clearly that everything I said was true. For the past 2 years, the surface appearance of harmony between wife and mistress actually hid countless triggers and dormant disasters. Stared down by me, he finally could not refute me, and could only leave. It seemed he still could not face it. He could not face the fact that the woman he loved, Bella, would use such vicious means. I did not rush him, I just waited for his decision. A few days later, old Madame Xiao's spirit recovered somewhat. She held my hand, instructing me on many things, telling me I must nourish the pregnancy well, and adding many words of comfort. I listened obediently, my attitude completely compliant. The old madam was old, the one who truly made decisions in the manor was still Julian. On the afternoon of the third day, Julian came to my courtyard. He dismissed all the servants. His face rarely showed such wariness. Bella once saved my life. The fact that she cannot bear children is not because she was forced to drink sterilization soup in the brothel, but because my late wife, Lydia, harmed her. Julian stammered as he recounted the old story between him and Bella. She was originally a courtesan from the Southern Isles, groomed to be a treasure by the brothel madam because of her stunning beauty and proficiency in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. That year, Julian went to the Southern Isles to investigate a case. The local officials, wanting to curry favor with him, presented Bella as a gift. To lower their guard, Julian accepted her, though at the time, he did not care for the young girl at all. However, later, the case touched upon powerful figures, and they immediately developed murderous intent, wanting to kill Julian to silence him. To escape, Julian used Bella as bait in the open while he hid in the shadows waiting for his moment. Unexpectedly, those people captured her and used severe torture to force a confession. Julian thought she would reveal everything to save her life, but Bella was deeply loyal. Despite the brutal torture, she gritted her teeth and did not say a word. From then on, Julian truly took her into his heart. After the case, her body collapsed due to the torture. When everything ended, Julian brought her back to the Shiao Manor. Old Madame Xiao had never liked women from brothels, but hearing of her loyalty, she had to praise her. Truly, even a beauty from the dust can have the spirit of a hero. At that time, Julian's lawful wife, Lydia, saw that Bella was specially favored and became jealous. She repeatedly found ways to suppress and harm her. Finally, taking advantage of Julian's absence, Lydia secretly made her drink sterilization medicine. When Julian returned, he found Bella gasping for her last breath. He flew into a rage and had a huge fight with Lydia, completely ing ties with her from then on. Lydia was a person of deep thoughts. Tormented by that incident, she later fell ill and never recovered, eventually passing away. Julian looked at calmly and gave a self-deprecating smile. I failed Bella once, I cannot fail her a second time. So, let it be as you wish. Wait until you give birth to the child. I will prepare a dowry for you. Whether you wish to remarry or not is entirely up to you. That he could make such a decisive choice actually gave me a sliver of respect for him. I took a deep breath and curtsied to him. Thank you, my lord, for fulfilling my wish. Julian looked at me deeply. Eleanor, I know you are a good woman. It is I who have wronged you. I will repay this debt in the future. After he left, Molly asked anxiously, My lady, do you really want to divorce? You are finally pregnant, aren't we just sewing the wedding dress for someone else? I shook my head and sighed. If I stay in the Shiao Manor, how could Mistress Bella let me go? And if I counterattack and harm her, Julian will not forgive me. It is better to withdraw early. This was inherently a battle I could not win. Molly's eyes turned red. How can your child be raised by someone from a brothel? My heart was also filled with torment. But if I am framed by them and carry a criminal charge, wouldn't the child be even more pitiable? The moment Julian opened his mouth to make that so-called proposal, I had even thought of taking a strong abortifacient to end this child's life early, to make a clean break. But thinking it over, I could not bear to do it. Mistress Bella could not bear children. If she were truly wise, she would treat the child with all her heart. Only then could she maintain her position for a long time. I slowly analyzed it for Molly. Uncle Bernard's matter has been resolved. My father has always been cautious and steady. This is the best time for me to leave Julian. He still feels guilt toward me, so he will not abandon the Chen family in the future. Even if the child stays, he still carries the blood of the Chen family. That will never change. My family feels indebted to me, and my sisters have married one by one. Even if I divorce, it will not affect their reputation or future. Molly, this time we can return to the Chen family and start over. I am only 19 years old. Why must I be stuck forever between Julian and Bella, living days of endurance? Right now, I just want to escape it all and live a life for myself. After making the decision, I could finally nourish my pregnancy with peace of mind. Mistress Bella knew I would leave, so she let go of her worries and played no more tricks. Julian, having made up his mind, actually appeared more open than before, treating me with a more natural gentleness. A few days later, when he came to visit me, I took the opportunity to discuss the divorce. Please do not rush to tell the old madame, but I hope your lordship will give me the divorce letter beforehand for safekeeping. Julian lowered his eyes. You are afraid I will go back on my word? I gave a soft laugh. Not to that extent, but keeping it in my hand makes my heart more at peace, and I will sleep a little better at night. Julian sighed. I never expected there would be a day when a woman would view me as a venomous snake. I waved my hand. No, but if I give birth and you refuse to let go, I truly will not be able to endure it anymore. The next day, Julian's expression was poor, but he finally handed the divorce letter to me. I stored it carefully in a box, my heart feeling as light as if a heavy stone had been lifted. Hearing news of my pregnancy, my mother brought many tonics and fabrics to visit. Thinking it over, I could not help but tell her about the agreement to divorce between Julian and me. Upon hearing it, my mother's eyes turned red. I thought she would scold me, but unexpectedly, she hugged me tightly and cried, "It is your mother who is useless. I could not speak up for you, leaving you to endure such griefs for all these years." She wiped her tears and choked out, "Good child, wait until you have given birth, and I will welcome you home. At that time, we will nurse your health back to perfection. Your father has many students with clean family backgrounds and bright futures. When the time comes, mother will choose carefully and find you a handsome scholar with upright character, so you can marry again. You do not need to live this life of grievance anymore." If my mother had blamed me, perhaps I would have felt more at ease. But her gentleness made me burst into tears, and I hugged her tightly. "Mother, I am sorry. I know I should not be so stubborn. I should have thought further, thought about using this child to win back the Marquis's heart, to endure for the sake of father and uncle's future. But I truly cannot do it anymore." She patted my back gently. "Good child, I do not blame you. It is our family that is useless." As the two of us spoke, a tall shadow seemed to flash past the door. Perhaps it was Julian, but at this moment, I no longer cared. 3 months later, my belly gradually swelled. The first time I felt fetal movement, I nearly cried from emotion. It turned out that connected bloodlines offered such a magical and beautiful feeling, but along with it came a myriad of discomforts. Initially, my appetite was good, but now I vomited whatever I ate. Just catching a faint whiff of fish could make me retch until my insides felt empty. My body grew heavier by the day, walking just a few steps left me short of breath. Julian lamented. Pregnancy is truly not easy for a woman. Did he only realize this now? The physician came frequently to check my pulse, advising me to keep a relaxed mood and eat as much as I could, but I truly could not stomach anything. Old Madame Shiao was extremely worried. She moved the cook and maids from her own private kitchen to serve me exclusively, and she bestowed upon me countless precious items, filling the storeroom of my courtyard to the brim. One day, when my spirits were somewhat better, I planned to commission a silver locket as a gift for the child. Just then, Julian visited. Seeing several sketches for lockets laid out on the bed, he asked, "What is this?" I looked at them and replied, "I have become a mother. I should leave something for my child. Even if I leave, these things can remain as keepsakes. Each pattern holds a specific meaning." Julian was intrigued and picked one up to read. Grace and wisdom. If it is a daughter, this pattern is quite good. I immediately pushed that one aside. A daughter does not necessarily need to have grace or great wisdom. I only wish for her to have both fortune and longevity, to be free and unfettered, and to live for herself. Saying this, I picked up a design engraved with peace and prosperity, and admired it for a long time. This pattern is suitable for both a boy and a girl. Julian stood beside me, silent and wordless. Perhaps my earlier words had touched upon his inner thoughts. I merely curled my lips in a faint smile, not bothering to pay him any more mind. Later, the peace and prosperity locket I chose was cast. Julian also sent another locket he had chosen, engraved with the words long life and good health. By the 7th or 8th month, my body became even heavier. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I could not even stand up on my own. I needed a maid to serve by my side. Molly specially arranged a sleeping place on the floor in my room to attend to me more conveniently. Julian also visited my courtyard frequently. Once, he stayed in the main chamber for 5 consecutive days. On the evening of that 5th day, Mistress Bella sent a maid to invite him. "My lord, the mistress is not feeling well. She wishes to invite your lordship over to take a look." This was the first time Bella had sent someone to summon him. I was slightly surprised but simply said calmly, Your lordship should go and take a look. Mistress Bella's health is more important. Julian's face darkened, and he frowned, shouting, if she is unwell, call a physician. Where did this lack of decorum come from? The little maid was scared pale and hurriedly retreated. I found it amusing. Since when did the Shiao Manor start talking about rules? For a mistress like Bella, from her clothing to her lifestyle, was there anything that followed the rules? To speak of rules only now seemed a bit too late. Just like that, it was not long before the day of my delivery arrived. On the day my water broke, the midwife and the deliver room were fully prepared. I was immediately taken into the birthing chamber. The midwife touched my belly and comforted me gently. My lady, do not worry. The position is very good. When it is time to push, the birth will go smoothly. The Marquis and the old madam are both waiting outside. My lady is truly blessed. My heart was filled with fear, but I forced a smile. When the pain crashed down, I felt as though every bone in my body was being crushed. The midwife told me to scream if it hurt, not to hold it in, for no one could bear such pain. I could not help but let out broken screams. Fortunately, although there were some difficulties, I successfully gave birth to a healthy baby boy right at midnight. When the child was first born, his entire body was red, and his cry was resonant. After being washed, he looked much more adorable. Hearing the news that it was a legitimate grandson, old Madame Xiao wept tears of joy on the spot. It was said that Julian was also delirious with joy and immediately rewarded everyone in the manor with silver coins. A few days later, the child's features became clearer. Molly said the upper half of his face resembled me, while the lower half resembled Julian. He was extremely handsome and lovable. Perhaps because he was my own flesh and blood, I could not take my eyes off him. Such a tiny little thing, just one cry or one smile made my heart tremble. When my body had recovered slightly, Molly told me that on the day I gave birth, they had caught an old woman sneaking into the room, her intentions unclear. That person was handed over to Julian to handle, but of course, nothing was investigated. It seemed Bella was afraid that after giving birth to a son, I would go back on my word and refuse to leave, so she wanted to send me on my way early. This matter only made me more determined to leave this place as quickly as possible. However, every time I looked at the child's small face, my heart felt as if it were being cut by a knife. Just like that, after he had been with me for a week, I ruthlessly ordered someone to take him to the nanny's room. Molly said with tears in her eyes, my lady, the little master. I closed my eyes. Once I had decided to let go, I could not let my heart waver. After having this child, Julian was clearly overjoyed. Every day after his duties, he came to see the child, holding him and refusing to let go. Although most noble families avoid fathers carrying infants, Julian having his first son after 30 naturally made him emotional. Hearing that I refused to see the child anymore, he carried the baby to find me, his eyes revealing unconcealable pain. What was the use of acting moved now? I deliberately pretended not to see, gritting my teeth. After my recovery month is over, I will leave the manor. Do not bring the child to see me again. Julian stared at the tiny waving hands of the child and whispered, he is so adorable. Do you truly have the heart? I turned my face away. Did we not make this clear beforehand? Your lordship, do not go back on your word. After a long while, Julian replied softly, I will not go back on my word. In the days that followed, I focused solely on recuperating. But it seemed I could always hear the baby crying in my ears. I began to feel that I was truly cruel, just because of my difficult days in the manor. I wanted to abandon this child in exchange for my own freedom. Was I not being too selfish? Molly entered and cried out in panic, my lady, you cannot cry during recovery. You must preserve your health. As she spoke, she hurriedly helped me wipe my tears. I took a deep breath, trying to force the tears back. Things had reached this point, thinking too much was useless. I could only tell myself that we simply lacked the fate to be mother and child. After the recovery month ended, I washed thoroughly from head to toe, then began to pack my luggage, simultaneously sending a servant to the Chen estate to inform my mother to come and pick me up. 2 months ago, Julian had given me a portion of private property, including several acres of good farmland and shops in prime locations. I did not refuse. I considered it compensation for the years I bore children and managed the household for him. Recently, Julian had named the child Thomas. I took the good things old Madame Xiao had bestowed, added a few heirlooms from my maiden family, and wrapped them separately, intending to leave them all for Thomas. I was contemplating whether to hand them to the old madam for safekeeping or to store them myself first. I suddenly realized Julian had been standing outside the door for a long time. His face was pale, his gaze fixed on me without blinking. I did not know what kind of madness had taken him, so I just pretended not to see him. After a while Julian suddenly spoke. "Eleanor, can you truly not stay?" I frowned and replied coldly. "The divorce papers have long been written. Your lordship, do not speak useless words anymore." Julian suddenly rushed forward and hugged me tightly, speaking emotionally. "I regret it, Eleanor, I truly regret it. You cannot go. Flesh and blood cannot be separated. You are Thomas's mother, the child needs you." It was I who was too stupid. I used my strength to push him away, speaking every word clearly. "Your lordship, back then I gave you a choice, and you chose Mistress Bella. Are you now intending to fail her a second time?" These were the exact words he had once said to me. Now I returned them intact. Julian covered his face with his hands, his voice hoarse. "It is my fault, I was foolish. I had a precious pearl before my eyes but did not know how to cherish it. I can send Bella out of the manor. I guarantee she will not disturb you and Thomas anymore. Please, do not go, will you? No need, it is truly not necessary anymore." Seeing my icy expression, Julian stood up. As he walked out, he spoke hurriedly. "Eleanor, wait for me. I will go send Bella out of the manor right now. Wait for me." I did not know why Julian was acting out this play. If he had known this day would come, why make that choice years ago? In any case, my mother would come to pick me up tomorrow. But that night, there was suddenly a chaotic noise outside the courtyard. I was puzzled when Molly rushed in, whispering, "Mistress Bella hanged herself." Indeed, I laughed coldly. "How is she?" Molly pursed her lips. "She is fine, she was saved in time. I heard the Marquis intended to settle her outside the manor, but she refused to live or die, making a huge scene and threatening suicide again. I knew it. How could sending Bella away be so easy?" That night passed silently. The next day, my mother indeed arrived with many people to pick me up. Old Madame Shiao had gone to the church early in the morning to pray for Thomas. I deliberately chose a day when she was absent to leave. Although I had suffered many greychens in the Shiao Manor over the years, the old madam had treated me well. I left a letter as a farewell. Apart from my young son, I truly had no attachments to this place. I ordered the servants to load my things onto the carriage and prepared to depart. Just as we reached the gate, I suddenly heard someone shouting loudly, "Eleanor, wait." Looking back, it was Julian running hurriedly toward me, holding the baby in his arms. He stood at the manor gate, his hands trembling, his voice hoarse. "Eleanor, do not go. Can you give me a little more time to handle everything?" I sighed, stepped forward to gently adjust the blanket for the child, and spoke softly. "Your lordship, we bid farewell here. No matter what happens, as long as Mistress Bella cries, makes a scene, and hangs herself, she will eventually get her way. Your lordship, stop deceiving yourself and others. In truth, you made your choice from the very beginning, didn't you?" Stepping onto the carriage, the sound of a baby crying uncontrollably rose behind me. It was my son crying so violently. Did he know his mother was leaving him? I fought back my tears and ruthlessly gave the order. "Let us go." The Shiao Manor gradually faded into the distance behind me. Julian stood alone at the gate holding the child. The shadow of the plaque bearing the Shiao estate fell over the father and son, looking truly desolate and lonely. After returning to the Chen estate, everyone, from grandmother to my father, Uncle Bernard, and Aunt Bernard, welcomed me warmly. Everyone offered diligent comfort, advising me not to overthink things and to rest peacefully at home. My father choked up, saying, "Good child, it is good that you are back. The courtyard you lived in before you married has been kept exactly as it was. The servants cleaned it every day, just waiting for your return." I wept and said, "Thank you, Father." Father's eyes were red. "It is good you are back, good you are back." After 3 years of separation, my younger brother Henry had grown quite a bit. He was now a young teenager. He said, "Sister, from now on, I will protect you so you can live a good life." I lamented in my heart, indeed, family is the best. I handled the return of my dowry after the divorce very discreetly, causing no great waves, though many people sighed behind my back, lamenting my ill fate. They said the Marquis of Shiao was not a good match. I bore a son and suffered grievances, yet ultimately could not keep my husband's heart. In the future, surely no one would want to marry their daughter there to suffer. Only Sarah's mother-in-law showed some attitude, giving Sarah the cold shoulder for 2 days. But my sister Sarah was no longer the easily bullied girl of years past. She had given birth to a son and a daughter for Captain Linwood, and her position in her husband's family was as solid as a mountain. Captain Linwood had also learned how to protect his wife, persuading his mother to be less harsh. A few days later, I heard that Julian found an excuse to scold the eldest son of the Linwood family thoroughly. Only then did Sarah's mother-in-law understand that my divorce from Julian did not mean a complete severing of ties and that he was still willing to stand up for me. From then on, she behaved herself. I, on the other hand, was quite speechless. Whatever Julian did from now on had nothing to do with me. I only prayed he would treat the child well. That was all I wished for. After 3 years of living in the Shiao Manor, the days back at the Chen estate felt as light and refreshing as the spring breeze. My parents did not rush me to remarry, telling me only to rest and heal my spirit. Half a year passed in peace. It was not until the following spring that I heard something had happened at the Shiao Manor. This matter did not spread to the outside world, but one of my dowry maids named Lucy had married a steward in the Shiao Manor, so we still had a connection. Lucy was close to Molly, and upon hearing the news, she immediately returned to report. I heard that after I left, old Madame Xiao fell seriously ill and ceased to ask about household affairs. Julian did not hand Thomas over to Bella to raise as he had promised, but instead kept the child by his side, having the nanny care for him. Bella was resentful, but she dared not show it. She only pretended to be attentive to the child when Julian was present. The moment he left, she paid the boy no mind. Lucy recounted vividly, "The little young master grows to look exactly like my lady. Every time the Marquis sees him, it seems he misses my lady even more." Once, little Thomas caught a chill that refused to heal. Julian flew into a rage. Upon investigation, he discovered that it was actually Bella who had deliberately sent the nanny away and opened the window, causing the child to catch a cold. Investigating further, several old servants confessed that there were bruises on the child's body caused by Bella secretly pinching him. No wonder Julian thought Thomas cried often because his constitution was weak. Hearing this, fury rose to the top of my head. What on earth was Bella thinking? I had already left, she had won. Why could she not care for the child peacefully? Lucy said. In his fury, Julian ordered people to lock Bella in the woodshed. For years, Bella had never suffered such hardship. Before long, she became half mad. When Julian went to see her again, she spoke incoherently, spewing wild words. "I know you resent me. You hate me. Eleanor left, but she took your heart with her. Every time you look at Thomas, it is like looking at Eleanor. As long as that child exists, you will never forget her. Since she left, you have not touched me once. My lord, do you not remember what happened in the Southern Isles all those years ago?" Hearing that Julian intended to send her out of the manor, Bella suddenly threw her head back and laughed loudly. Once a man has a change of heart, a woman is not worth a single copper coin. Haha, and just like that, Bella was sent out of the manor. I sighed softly. Leaving the manor was not necessarily a bad thing. Anyone with eyes could see that Bella's elevated status back then could not last forever. Lucy said, "My lady, if she had truly behaved herself, there would be nothing more to say." Molly asked, "What did she do now?" According to Lucy, after leaving the manor, Bella was settled in an exquisite courtyard house with quite a few servants serving her. If she had known her place, her life would not have been bad. However, in less than half a year, unknown to anyone, Bella started an affair with an adulterer. The two were entangled in passion, and were eventually caught in bed by the steward. When she was dragged before Julian, her hair was a mess. Knowing she had no path to life left, she adopted a destructive tone, laughing coldly. "You kicked me out, why can I not find another man? Did you expect a woman like me to remain chaste for you and live out her days? My lord, you are the one with a vicious heart. That year in the Southern Isles, I suffered so much hardship and sin for you, yet you forgot it all so quickly. Haha, let me tell you the truth. I knew your plan long ago. I was originally in league with those people. It was all just an act, a ruse of self-inflicted injury. Furthermore, my body was ruined long ago. I could never bear children. That is why I blamed it all on your late wife, Lydia. From start to finish, she never forced me to drink sterilization tonics. I simply said it, and you believed it, refusing to listen to a single word of her defense. Lydia was so pitiful. Why did she die so early? Was she not driven to death by you? Haha, only Eleanor is smart. She knows that a wife is not equal to a mistress is not equal to a stolen lover, and a stolen lover compares nothing to the one who got away, leaving you hanging forever. No one knew where Bella was sent in the end. only that she would certainly never appear before the eyes of the world again. A powerful Marquis like Julian allowed himself to be played in the palm of a woman from the dust. It was truly laughable to the point of pity. I knew clearly that those rumors were definitely intentionally sent by Julian through Lucy to reach me. But so what? A few days later, Julian carried Thomas to the Chen estate to find me. Because of the child, my parents did not stop him. He looked so haggard he seemed to have aged several years. Upon seeing me, he lowered his voice. I have taken care of the matter regarding Bella. Please come back. He spoke earnestly. From now on, no one will come between us. This time, I will welcome you back with a grand ceremony, making you the most honored Marchioness in the capital. Please, for the sake of the child, give me another chance. I shook my head. My lord, there is no need. If the child misses me, you can send someone to bring him here. If necessary, I will not ignore him. But as for the matter between the two of us, it should end here. Julian looked full of guilt. Eleanor, can you truly not give me another chance? Rekindling an old flame is also a beautiful story. I have realized how wrong I was in the past. I was blinded by that lowly woman. I will never let you suffer loss again. I looked straight into his eyes and sighed. My lord, do you remember Lord Simon? Julian froze. I said, Lord Simon often goes out and laments that his wife is jealous, even coming to ask you for the secret to marital harmony. But in reality, every time Lady Simon scolds him, or even hits him, he accepts it willingly. When the king bestowed a mistress upon him, he would rather defy the edict than accept her. I looked straight at him. Because Lord Simon understands that his wife cares about him and minds him, so he cannot bear to break her heart. Men flatter each other and boast when they are outside. It is all just an act. Only those who are sincere know how to respect their wives. Compared to Lord Simon, Julian, you are truly a joke. I continued calmly, my lord, if you experienced a very painful memory, would seeing the people or scenery from that time remind you of that suffocating feeling? Julian's lips moved. Linner. I replied composedly, just seeing you makes me remember those days of humiliation in the Shiao Manor. Years ago, you used your power to force me to marry into your family, but you never once truly respected me. Since I was young, I dreamed of a loving marriage, growing old together, but you destroyed it all. Julian's voice trembled. It is different now. I swear from now on, I will only have you. Please, forgive me one more time. He looked pitiful, yes, but he brought it all upon himself. In truth, my lord, you are the type of heartless person that makes others fearful. Your first wife, Lydia, committed no wrong, yet because of a few slanderous words from Bella, you drove her to depression and death. As for Bella, you once doted on her so deeply, yet when you stopped loving her, you discarded her like trash. You are the most heartless and cold-blooded person I have ever met. Actually, I realized this long ago. If you were truly trustworthy, Bella would not have been so anxious. She saw through your nature early on, fearing that one day she would meet the same end as Lydia. I sighed. My lord, you and I have divorced, our paths have parted. Everyone lives their own life. Please, from now on, do not come looking for me. Julian's eyes were red as he stood silently on the spot. The moment I turned to leave, my heart wavered slightly. There was a time, when I first found out I was pregnant, that I had expectations of him. I expected that we would be a loving couple like my parents, kind parents to our child, living peacefully until the end. But the moment he opened his mouth and said, "Give the child to Bella to raise," I completely severed all dreams. Julian, let me go, and let yourself go. After I finished speaking, Julian truly disappeared for a long period. However, sometime later, he began bringing Thomas to the Chen estate to find me every 3 or 5 days. The child grew more attached to his mother as he got older, and I missed him too, but that did not mean I wanted to see Julian. So every time he came, I had my brother Henry go out to welcome Thomas inside, while I avoided meeting him. It was not until 3 years later that he came to the door personally once again. This time, I did not let my brother handle it but stepped out to meet him myself. Seeing me, Julian's eyes lit up, his voice filled with emotion. Eleanor, long time no see. You are finally willing to meet me. I spoke calmly. My lord, this is the last time I will meet you. Next month, I am getting married. Julian instantly turned pale, looking as if all the blood had been drained from his body. You want to remarry? But, for years I have been waiting for you. The Shiao Manor has had no other women. I have kept myself chaste, hoping you would see my sincerity. Thomas and mother also always hope for your return. I am no longer the heartless man I was before. I replied calmly. Our story passed long ago, I have long forgotten it. Now, in my eyes, you are just a stranger. There are no more waves, no more trimmers. My future husband is my father's junior disciple. He is young, handsome, and exceptionally talented, but most importantly, he is a true gentleman. For the past 2 years, he has gently pursued me, hoping to take me as his wife. I felt that as a remarried woman, I was unworthy, so I dared not accept. This time, Arthur, the senior scholar, came to propose again. I asked him, if you become an official in the future, are you not afraid of offending the Marquis of Shiao? After all, everyone in the court knows the Marquis is deeply devoted, waiting day after day. He simply smiled gently and replied, actually, I have no ambition for advancement in officialdom. I only took the exams to put my parents at ease. Furthermore, I do not wish to climb the ladder to heaven. So what does it have to do with the Marquis? If you do not despise my lack of ambition, please nod so I can marry you properly. After speaking, he bowed deeply, smiling like the spring breeze. In that very moment, my heart beat fast once again. So, I agreed, looking at Julian, who stood dazed and bewildered, not knowing what to do. I simply said softly, my lord, next month I will marry. If you wish, you may come to drink a cup of wedding wine. If you do not wish to, that is fine too. After that day, I will no longer be at the Chen residence. Even if you stand in the same spot waiting for years, I have no obligation to respond to a love that came too late. There are some things where being one step slow means missing out for a whole lifetime. Eleanor's journey teaches us that self-worth is the ultimate dignity. A woman should never settle for being a mere option when she deserves to be a priority. Julian's tragedy reminds us that hearts are not waiting rooms. We cannot take genuine affection for granted and expect it to endure our neglect. The most painful realization is that apologies cannot undo the past, and some people, once lost, are gone forever. True happiness requires the courage to walk away from those who do not value us, for as Eleanor said, being one step too slow can mean missing out for a lifetime. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe.